You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.
It's John Bingham here. You're listening to Guitar Talk.
And this is Dave.
Episode number 7.
All right.
Frequently asked questions.
The FAQ.
We need one of those voices with the echo on it. Frequently.
Oh, you know, I'll edit them in.
Ooh, there you go.
Questions about hate and death and war.
All right.
Okay. So the first question, John, is what gear are you guys currently looking at?
Oh,
I'll let you
God.
field it first.
I'm always looking at gear. It's an addiction. It's a problem. If I was going to take anything seriously right now, stuff that I want, I kind of want like band application stuff. Like, it'd be nice to have a better mic collection to be able to like mic up the drums and stuff like that in rehearsal. I kind of want a Presonus makes a thing called a 16R. It's a 16-channel rack mixer that's got the ability to either record to micro SD or treat it as an interface. I just kind of want to be able to like sit in a rehearsal setting and record the rehearsals. Kind of like having the ability to go back to the tape for a football team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to do that and just be able to say, okay, well, we suck at this vocal harmony, or, you know, there's problems with this song or whatever. And we're not recording any of the rehearsals right now. We're just kind of trying to play it by ear. So it would be what I'd be after. A Presonus 16R and a better mic collection. None of it's guitar related.
So for me, I've been trying to hunt down a JCM 900 Mach 3, which is the 2100 or the 2500 if you get the 2100's the 100 watt, the 2500's the 50 watt. I had a guy that was going to sell it to me, and I got a text from him yesterday saying, I changed my mind, I'm keeping it. So I'm like, a buddy of mine had this amp when it came out, and I always loved it, and I just ignored it. And I always thought that all the 900s were the same. And then over the years, I realized there's the dual reverb, and there's the Mach 3, and there's the SLX. And so I'm hunting down a Mach 3, and I'll probably end up getting one. And that's about it. I really haven't been looking at anything else. And there's really not a need other than the fact that it's a really great sounding amp.
It's a pretty rare amp. That was only made for, I think, 2 years.
The 50 watt was 2 years, yeah. I think the 100, they went into 93 or 4, but the 90, the 2500 was made from 90 to 92.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the second question is by my buddy Al, who always seems to ask the most absurd questions. And the question is, if you could wake up tomorrow and you would be your favorite guitar player. Now, I don't know who that is for you. Who would that be? Somebody that you would want to play, that you could wake up tomorrow and play like them. You would have their brain as understanding of the fingerboard, not just the playing, but you would understand what they understand.
Oh, interesting. God, that's a hard question. It just related to the guitar. Do I get to keep the other stuff? Or do I turn into them entirely? No matter what the case is, I'm just gonna go with. I'll just say it was Eddie.
All right, so Eddie Van Halen. So now here's the
Eddie.
caveat to his question, because he can never ask you a straight question. And the caveat is you can wake up tomorrow and be like Eddie Van Halen, play exactly like him. Eddie never existed, so no one's ever heard that style before. But the only caveat is you have to have Larry Fine's hairdo, and you can't change it in any way. You have to live with it.
Oh, man. That's better than the hairdo I have right now. I can't grow anything.
Well, that's the
I'll
point.
take it.
You shaved it. Really? You'll take it?
I'll take it. Yeah.
For
I'm
me,
down.
I think it would be Holdsworth. And the only reason is for me, I just would like to be inside of his head to be like, what the hell is he thinking during some of these parts? And in hearing those harmonies that he hears as he hears them, I think that'd be interesting. But would I do it for Larry Fine's hairdo? I don't think so. I don't know. It's so tough. I guess it's a matter of vanity, right?
Oh,
If you give a shit. Anyways, that's something to think about. So.
that's so funny. So this is your buddy Al, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Gotta meet Al. Good
He's
Lord.
unbelievable. So
All right.
today, Al tried to sell a bass neck on Craigslist. This guy offers him $100. It's a Fender bass neck. Or is it a Fender or is it an Ernie Ball? It's something. I think it's a Fender Mexican bass neck, and he's selling it for $100. Anyways, the guy says, "I'll call you at 12:30," and he never calls. So for like 3 hours, I'm hearing it from Al, all about how this guy wouldn't. Can you believe this guy flaked for $100? He's just going off. So finally, when he's finally all calmed down, we're eating and we're just talking about something else. I look up at him and I go, I can't believe that guy wigged out on you for $100. I'm just stirring that pot.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good Lord.
Oh, you had to see the look because he thought for a second he was about to get roped in, and he goes, you're just doing it to burn.
That's fantastic. God
Okay.
dang.
Now, I think
All right.
you had a question.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody's asking, is my Buddha out of the hospital? It is not. The latest that I've heard is that Dave Friedman replaced a filter cap, and he said it improved it slightly, but it's still not right. So I'm assuming that, he just needs to spend a bit more time with it and figure it out. This amp may never get back to me. I think it's been out of my possession for coming up on 4 weeks. So what are you gonna do? I got the boogie sounding good. The boogie's dialed in.
Those things are great, aren't they? I mean, those are awesome amps.
You got to see my tone settings. I'm doing things a little differently with it. First thing I do is turn the bass all the way up. I'm just kidding. Could you imagine?
Yeah. What are you doing?
A lot of mids.
Oh yeah, I think I saw your Facebook post about that. I think on mine, I'm looking at my settings right now because what's the red channel? The distortion one, the bottom one is the gain one.
Right.
I got my treble at about 3 o'clock, which is extremely high.
Yeah, it is.
I got my mids and my bass at 9 o'clock, which is extremely low.
Are you running modern or vintage?
Modern.
Oh, wow.
And I have my presence at about 10:30.
Okay. Yeah, we very, very different settings. I'm running vintage.
Oh yeah.
I'm not running modern, but my vintage, I run the gain right about noon. I'm running the treble about 1 o'clock, the mids at about 2 o'clock. I think I've got the bass dialed back to about 9 o'clock, 9:30, something like that. And I've got the presence up around 1 or so. But I also should mention, I don't know if I told you, I put a vintage 30 in it.
Yes, you took out the what was in there?
It was the original C90 Black Shadow.
Black Shadow, right? Exactly. Right.
Yeah. I didn't dislike the speaker. I was just curious, and Tim over at Boogie hooked me up with the English made V30 for a pretty good price. So
the ones that sell on the site for like $145.
Yeah.
My buddy Al's trying to sell me another one. I have 3. I have so I have an EVH cab over here.
Yeah.
That's that the Marshall's sitting on. That has 2 vintage 30s in there, the British ones from Boogie. And then this custom right here, that's the Night Train plugs into. That's also a vintage 30, the British one, the same exact one you got.
Oh, okay.
And my buddy has a 4th one, and he's trying to sell it to me for $80 in the box. So I'm like, that's a great deal.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll
I don't
use it.
have anything for it, but I'll use it for something.
You could put it. You have the Black Shadow in your rectifier, right?
I do.
Yeah, it's not a bad speaker, but I'm finding that the Vintage 30 is a little less boomy. Like the low end, the bass isn't as. It's not as boomy. I mean.
Oh, really? Well, maybe I will pick it up and swap it.
Yeah.
But
Otherwise, it sounds pretty similar.
What is an 80? Is an 80 watt?
Well, they rate it
60.
60 watts.
Sorry, 60.
But I've seen it rated at 70 watts as well, so I don't really know. I mean,
I think my rectifier cabinet, the 4x12, has the 30s. I think
it should be.
Yeah, because it used to come with the Black Shadows. I think the original Boogie one from when they first came out.
Well, I think that they ran with the Black Shadows back when it was like that halfback cabinet. You remember the halfback cabinet?
Yeah.
Where it would have either EVs or Black Shadows in it.
Right. Okay.
And I feel like the original configuration, and I shouldn't know this, but I feel like the original configuration was in the bottom, in the closed back portion of that cabinet, it was a pair of Vintage 30s. And in the upper portion of it, it would have been a pair of EVs or Black Shadows. And then, of course, you could have ordered in any custom configuration you wanted.
Imagine what that would sound like with a mahogany body and a maple neck. That's what it sounds like those guys are doing. We're going to do a half cab, half this, and we're going to do this on... Just make a fucking cabinet, guys. Christ. Make a cabinet that doesn't weigh 85 pounds, and I'll be happy.
That's a question that I ask them all the time. Why is your shit so heavy?
I would like to hear yours now, because that'd be something. Wait, but there's two speakers in this. This is a 1x12.
It is a 1x12. Mine is, anyway.
God, no, mine is too. It weighs like a 2x12.
Oh, it's like 85 pounds.
It's out of control.
And
that's why it's up in this room.
I don't understand why either. The Transformers aren't exceptionally big. I think that the chassis they use is solid steel chassis.
Mm-hmm.
Where I know my Buddha is an aluminum chassis, which is going to be considerably lighter. But then it's like a 13-ply birch cabinet.
Yeah.
And I know my Buddha again, which is also a 112, and has a similar size speaker in it as well with a similar size magnet. The Buddha weighs like 42 pounds.
Yeah.
But it's a solid pine cabinet.
Right.
So I'm assuming
What's the Hot Rod Deluxe made out of? I have a Hot Rod Deluxe downstairs. It's 40 pounds.
I think that Hot Rod Deluxe is probably like birch or something, right?
Yeah. It's
great. I don't know. I don't understand what they do with it. It's lined in lead.
Exactly. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we're all curious to hear about the Buddha. We're actually definitely going to have to get a demo from you with the Buddha when that's done.
That amp kills. I can't wait to get it back. It's probably going to sound totally different when it's back.
Right.
I'm going to be like, oh, God, I don't want this anymore. Oh, man. Well, let's move on.
Yeah, so another question. Go ahead, you got it?
Ahead. Yeah, sure. We're hearing the question of what strings are you using on your electric guitars?
Okay, so for me, I use the DiMaggio and I use the NYXLs. I love them. I also, if I'm doing something where I don't want to use an NYXL, I'll just use the standard string. Like something if I'm stringing up and I know I have to take the strings off it in a week or something, I'll do that. But if it's a gigging guitar, it's going out with the NYXLs, and I use 9-42 on any Strat 25.5-inch scale, except for my G&L, which is an ASAT. I use 9-46. I go to a heavier bottom because I do a lot of drop D with it. So
there you go.
And how about you?
Pretty much the same thing, except I still haven't tried the NYXLs. I'm just using EXL 140s. I use 10-52 DiMaggio on all of my electric guitars.
Wow.
For a while, I was using the 11-56s on the Gibson scale guitars because they feel like pretty sloppy when you're using the same gauges on the Strat. But I've gotten lazy in my old age, and I don't bother with that anymore. So yeah, just 10-52s on everything. Most of my stuff, I should mention, most of my stuff is tuned down either a half or a full step.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big difference.
Yeah. If I was tuned all the way up, I might pop into 9 to 46 like you're using on your GNL.
Yeah. It's a good feel. It's a good feel in that tuning. But yeah, no, if I didn't have that, if I was going to do drop tuning, I'd go down to like the 10 to 49, is it?
10 to 52 is their
Oh,
standard.
10 to 52. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I just think it's the 11, isn't it 11 to 49? They're standard 11s. Okay, yeah. So I just tried to think of the gauge up, just doing it in my head. But yeah, but that's cool. And then for picks, as I said on my pick day, I use, and I think you talked about this, I use the Altex 1.40 Dunlop Altex 1.40. I like it.
What happened to the Claytons? You were using those for years.
I like the Claytons on acoustics, but they're like big wafers. You know, it's like thick, and I like this comes down to a real thin point, like the stainless, as opposed to like the squared off style pick.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's just what I've been using.
Lately, I've been using these D'Addario Duralin, whatever Duralin is. It looks like fake Tortex. Same basic thing, 1.2.
Duralin sounds like a
it's pointy, just like yours.
Sounds like a dancer at the Foxy Lady. On the solid gold stage, we've got Duralin.
Isn't that the name of that Southeast Asian fruit that everybody says smells like death? No, that's durian.
Right. Yeah, durian. Yeah. Duralin sounds like something like some type of adhesive, like what is it, like Gore-Tex? New from Gore Technologies. Get the raincoat coated with Duralin. Yeah.
Exactly.
So John,
your
wife has been bothering you, asking you, John, why do you always need a new amp and why do you always need new pedals?
And new guitars, and why do I need more strings? And
why are you breathing?
My wife is always asking me for years. She's always asking me, what do you want that for? What do you need that for? Oh boy, a lot of you guys out there can probably relate to that. She has a damn good question because I probably don't need any of it.
Well, we always had when we worked at West LA, if somebody came in and they were like kicking tires about a guitar, we would always say, do you know how many guitars a guitar player needs? Just always one more. Yep.
That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. She has good points, but I'll tell you, there's something about a guitar player, you feel the sound. The non-player hears the sound, you feel the sound. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, that's partially when I do my videos about does this matter or does this matter, people get all mad because I'm talking about audibly and they're arguing passionately because they feel it, and feeling it is a personal thing. It has nothing to do with is it changing your tone. And so we do. You know, it's like it's the difference between somebody liking a C neck or a V neck.
Yeah.
Or
it just gets pervasive is all it is. I mean, there's the actual tactile feel of your C neck or your V neck and how it relates to your hand, but there's other things that are so much smaller, yet they're significant enough to be a bother. Like today, I'm swapping out all kinds of drive pedals on the Boogie, trying to see which one I think sounds the best. Mm-hmm. Now, this is such a futile practice because the moment I take it to a rehearsal and turn it up, the dynamics all change. So whatever I put into it in my bedroom volume doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But I'm sitting here with my full drive 2, tweaking away, getting a sound that I like, swap it out for the BB Pre, swap it out for the Tube Screamer, just trying a handful of different things. And my wife is like, they all sound the same. I don't understand what you're doing, but they totally feel different. One of them feels like it's spongier in the low end, and one of them feels like it's kind of attenuating the highs a little bit more than the other one. And there's no perfect solution. It's either like, I got to sacrifice the highs or I got to sacrifice the lows or whatever. But it is kind of a messed up thing, and I think that that's part of the reason that all of us constantly chase gear.
here's something that's funny. So we talk about the rock box that I love, the Boiling Point by Rockbox. I'll go play a gig with it, and I always keep the gain right at 12 o'clock. The tone I keep around 2 o'clock, and then the level I have to measure, so I want it at unity gain with the volume of the amp, because I don't really want it as a boost unless I'm using the Timmy. I want it at the volume. I want all my volumes to be even. So I'll play it, and I play it at this one club, and I'm playing, and I'm like, my God, what's wrong with this pedal today? I'm getting no gain out of it. And then I'll shut it off, and I'll put on my clean pedal, and then I'll go back to it, and I'm like, I guess it does have the gain. It just doesn't sound like a lot today. A day later, I go do another gig in another venue, and I'm on a different floor, in a different situation, a different room, and I step on that pedal, and I'm like, why does this thing have 10 times more gain than I want? And I'll look down, and the pedal's identical, and it's not moving. Then I'll go to my clean one, and then I go back to it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's not really that. It just feels like it has more gain today. And it's the same effing pedal, which is what you were kind of saying. You could take something into a rehearsal room, and it sounds exactly how you want it to play it. And then you go out to a gig, and you start second guessing yourself. And the thing to do in that point is to trust your gut and be like, you know what? I had it right. It sounds good. And if you ask people, like I asked people in my band, I'm like, does this sound like the way it sounded last week? And they're like, dude, it's the fucking same. I'm like, okay, because it sounds like I have no gain on right now. And they're like, no, it's just, it's messed up in that. So I think that a lot of people do that. They play a pedal, and a couple of gigs they play it, they're like, you know what? It's not what I thought it was. And it's like, well, are you just dealing with your ear tension that you're hearing it the same now, and now it's not that same magical sound? Or, so I've been bouncing around pedals, and every time I look at my board, I'm like, nope, I'm not going to touch it. I'll tell you what I had a problem with last night, a couple of nights ago, was the Paisley drive. I put my Paisley drive on, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to use this for? This thing sounds terrible. Sounds great most of the time, but it just sounded terrible. And a pedal that I very rarely use is the Vic Audio 73 Ram's Head that I can get the Gilmore tone. And usually I find it to be just overbearing. And then a couple of nights ago, I'm playing, and I stepped on it because we were doing the song Easy, and I was doing that heavy fuzz solo by the Commodores.
Yep.
And I play it, and I'm like, oh, this thing's perfect. I was like, this reminds me of a fresh sweater right out of the dryer.
Oh, boy.
Like an Arizona sunset. We've never brought him up, and I forget his name, John from R. Taylor Guitars.
Oh, John DiMaggio. Wow, I haven't heard that name in a while.
But do you remember when he'd hit us a guitar, we'd strum it, and he'd be like, isn't that buttery?
He was like, that's the guy. What was the South Park character? It was Tweak's dad.
Yeah, Tweak's father, like an Arizona sunset.
Yeah.
Like a sweater fresh out of the dryer.
Yeah.
That's how that guy talked about guitars.
Yeah.
Isn't she? And everything was always she. Isn't she buttery? Oh my God, yeah. It's gonna have to take some atorvastatin. She's getting too much cholesterol.
Yeah, I don't know. Boy, that project collapsed. How long was R. Taylor around? 2 years, maybe?
I think a little longer, but not much. Not much, because it wasn't around. Maybe it was around a year before we got them, and then they were like a year. We had them a year, and then maybe gone a year after we got rid of them.
We had a lot of problems with those backs cracking and things, and
they were making it thinner.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that had to do with our humidity. I mean, granted, Los Angeles, where the shop was, doesn't really have a humidity problem. We're right around 40 without even moderating it.
If you have a problem in Southern California with a humidity problem with your guitars are not going to friggin' go anywhere, because how can you ship that to New York or Boston where the humidity goes from 70% to 0? I mean, it's like,
I agree.
No way.
Yeah.
There's no way. Those guitars were a problem. The idea of some of them were fantastic, and there was that one with that bloodwood that had the beveled edge, was just gorgeous. But
it was such a such a vanity project for Bob, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea was we're already a premium guitar maker, and we're going to be extra premium with these models, and it just feels like it was unnecessary.
And do they not make them anymore? Yeah, that's
no,
it. They put it.
No, they haven't made them in years.
Yeah. All right, so people understand, because maybe they don't understand what we're talking about. So Taylor Guitars is a company down in San Diego. Bob Taylor, Kurt Lestig, is that his name? The partner?
Yeah.
Started this company, and they basically had a side project called R. Taylor Guitars. And R. Taylor was his premium, his like Bentley models. I mean, everything was really high end. It was above the presentation series in Taylor. It was the next level. And I think they were doing things like they were doing the wood really thin so the thing would vibrate and have this magic to it. So magical they would crack.
Right. Yeah.
At least they were for us. And
yeah, it was a problem. I mean, I get it. I think at that point he's trying to compete with like Goodall and you know, some of those guys, Santa Fe maybe, or Santa Cruz, I mean.
Yeah, Santa Cruz. I mean, I think, well, and Callings, but I think the thing with Taylor was he was already competing with those guys in the same price point. And I think he wanted to go jump and be like the mid-level between Olson and, or what's that other guy's name? Kevin Ryan. Right.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, we did. I mean, we sold a few of those
Santa
guitars.
Cruz and a Kevin Ryan.
I feel like we sold a few of those guitars for a lot of money. I sold a Brazilian Rosewood R. Taylor that I think was like 15 grand or something like that.
Yeah, I think the last time I talked to Steve, you know, in Palisades, he owned 4 Ryans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went down to his factory and hung out with them, and
yeah,
those are gorgeous guitars.
Yeah, super nice.
Yeah, I think also the McPherson. Those are great guitars too. He bought one of those. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
so much nice stuff.
I don't know if it's my financial status or what, but I don't gas for those guitars.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I don't either. You know what? If for an acoustic guitar, like I love looking at the Grammer guitars online, because just yesterday I was sending somebody a video to watch of Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner singing The Last Thing on My Mind. And Porter Wagoner's playing that like 1967, 68 Grammer guitar that like you always see on the Wilbur Brothers show. And oh, it's great. That I pine over. It's so much more nostalgia than it is for like, oh, here's a, you know, although I did watch a video of 10cc doing a live show playing I'm Not in Love, and everyone was using Santa Cruz guitars, and I was just like, I love the Santa Cruz pre-war.
Huh.
Oh, it's with a big fat V-neck. It's like a 1 3/4, but it's a hair bigger than a 1 3/4.
Wow, that's big.
They're gorgeous. Great guitars.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the capacity for that. You know, it's maybe one of these days, but in the short term, I'm having fun with electric guitars. I haven't screwed around. I haven't screwed around with acoustic guitars much at all over the last couple of years.
I play a lot of acoustic, a lot. And I gig a lot with acoustic. Now, a friend of mine, talking about amps and gears, a friend of mine has been buying up a bunch of Dr. Z's. He plays in a band with me. He's got 3 Dr. Z's, and you had a Dr. Z.
I've had many.
You like them?
I do. Yeah, they're good. They're super loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, they punch way above their weight class.
And so I was looking at a couple of boutique amps, and I was looking at like the Morgan PR 12, I think it is. Yeah. And the problem with it is like, okay, you made a Princeton reverb, but you don't have the tremolo, which is like the sexy part of that amp that I think is part of that amp. So I was like, well, all right, so that's out. And I was looking at some tungstens. Tungsten makes a great Fender clone, and so does Victoria. Victoria really makes some nice amps. A friend of mine has been building guitars. I'm going to do a showcase of his guitar that he built. And I went over his house, and he was still showing me some of the pickups designs that he was working on. And going through a Fender Twin Clean, the thing just sounded great, so clear.
Was it a tweed twin or just a regular old blackface?
It was
twin?
a regular blackface twin that had been modified, and then he went through the amp and got rid of all the modifications and brought it back to spec of the original 60s twin.
Got it.
So it's nicer. It's like, a lot of point-to-point stuff he's done in there, and but it's just a beautiful sounding amp. Considering it's just sitting in his basement, I was like, oh.
You know what I would like? Speaking of boutique amps, and I think Victoria makes something like this. I would like a Fender Bassman, like a real Bassman, but as a 210 instead of a 410.
Yeah.
Half the weight, half the size, a little bit less headroom because that thing is just blaringly loud. But
what's the tubes? What's the power tube?
6L6s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a pair of 6L6s. I mean, that's the amp that the JTM 45 was based off of. Just a 59 Tweed Bassman. I always like the breakup on those amps, but you have to wind them up so far to get it happening. Figure a 210 might tame that a little bit and also be more friendly on your back.
What's the Vibrolux running? Are those 6V6s?
No, 6L6s as well.
It is?
The Vibrolux is a different circuit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And plus the Vibrolux has something, I can't remember what it is, but there's something about the negative feedback loop that's different in that amp that makes it sound unlike anything else in the Blackface line.
The original Vibrolux, I will say, if anyone wants to know what my favorite Fender amp is, it's the original Vibrolux. The new ones that they came out, there will be guys that go out and mod them to bring them back to the original, but there's something ultra noisy in the new ones.
Yeah.
Where, remember that time we sold one to a guy over at the Village, and I'm like, this is coming back. Because he's like, oh, I want it for a session. I'm like, it's not going to, and he ended up bringing it back, and he was mad. I'm like, I told you were bringing it back. He's like, yeah, you didn't convince me. I'm like, I told you that thing's coming back. He ended up taking out a Hot Rod Deluxe, a limited Hot Rod Deluxe with a, I think it was a White Lightning.
Oh, okay.
Remember the white ones? Yeah.
And then came back and was in that.
That was a Celestion Vintage 30.
Oh, okay.
It's the same one that they later came out with it with the blue Tolex and called it the Blues Man.
Right.
But it was originally the White Lightning, and it was all the white knobs and the white. It was beautiful. And so that's a great sounding amp too. But the original Vibrolux, or if you can get a new Vibrolux and have somebody mod it where it's quiet, to me is the greatest, sexiest sounding amp as far as like, that clean with that tremolo, the reverb, everything's just.
Yeah. Yeah, the custom deluxe or the custom Vibrolux reissues that they were doing for years. I think they reissued them in '96 and they ran them up until just recently. Now they're doing the Silverface reissues.
Right.
But the cream knob custom Vibrolux, it was noisy and doesn't have the same depth of character to the reverb or the tremolo that the original ones did, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I think the depth of that had to do with you could just swap out the tube. I can't remember if they use an AT7 or an AU7 in that. You could just use a higher gain and make it a. But there's something in the wiring. There was a guy that's down here who said he figured out what they were doing wrong, and he goes into them and fixes them, and he says he can make them sound like the vintage ones, which it's definitely worth it if you can do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, I got to get moving.
All righty.
I think it's time to wrap this up. Folks,
all right, so I'll see you next week with your Larry Fine hairdo and your Kramer 5150.
If only I could. All right.
All right, John. All right, I'll wrap for you later, man.
All right, very good, everybody.
You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.